Hello humans, it's just Martine, and today I'm going to be reading 5 books that I got from the Dollar Tree. If you've been around my channel for any length of time, then you know that I love cheap and free books, and I especially love getting books from the Dollar Tree. Yes, at least in the United States, every branch of the Dollar Tree has a book section, and you can find some real gems in there. I picked out a stack of 5 books, all from different genres that I have on my shelf that I obtained from the Dollar Tree. Admittedly, what's available at your Dollar Tree is going to be really random, so I've acquired these over some time along with all the other Dollar Tree books that I have on my shelves, but here are 5. I picked them and we're going to be reading them. The first that I have is a nonfiction book called In Defense of the Princess: How Plastic Tiaras and Fairy Tale Dreams Can Inspire Strong, Smart Women. I'm 50 pages into this. I'm liking it very much. I'll talk about it more later. Next, I have Minders by Michelle Jaff. I think it's like sci-fi, fantasy type thing. Question: if the boy you love commits a crime, would you turn him in? What if the crime is murder? What if you saw it happen from inside his mind? That's what it says on the back. So, a historical fiction called 3 Brothers by Peter Ackroyd. I've had this one for a very long time. This what appears to be contemporary, but it doesn't say. Hugo and Rose by Bridget Foley. Isn't it so pretty? From the Dollar Tree. Hardback. Pretty. In perfect condition. $1. And then finally, this piece of religious fiction called Vatican Waltz by Roland Marullo, which piqued my interest also a very long time ago. Out of this stack, I've had these 2 for the shortest amount of time and the rest for quite a while. Let's get into it. So in the first 50 or so pages of In Defense of the Princess, the chapter was in defense of Disney princesses. So the reason that this book piqued my interest is because one summer I worked at a summer camp that was exclusively for little girls, and they played dress up and they had princess makeovers and everything was princess themed. And yes, I wore princess dresses growing up sometimes and watched Disney princess movies and such, but I've never been a girly girl. I've always been very much a tomboy, and so I feel like I had this perception of princesses and princess play and stuff for a very long time, and then I worked at that summer camp and I was like, how can I help support these girls? I can see how this experience is giving them self-confidence and is helping them grow. I wanted to support other girls even though they like different things than me, so I thought this was really interesting looking, so I picked it up. Yeah, so far I'm enjoying it, and the next chapter is In Defense of Princess Play, so I'm extremely interested in that one because I think it will relate directly to my experience at that summer camp. So that's all I have for now. So I'm sitting here reading this book. She's talking about how princesses are used to help young girls understand kindness, fairness, and sovereignty, and shows that girls are powerful and can make a difference. And I was reminded of my favorite bedtime story, which was actually a series of stories that my dad would make up whenever he would tell them to us, about these 2 princesses modeled after me and my twin sister, obviously named Esther and Esmeralda. And he would often translate the things that we had talked about from during our day or something we had been learning recently into the story to show us how the princesses handled things. Powerful women are amazing and I love it. Okay, so let's talk about In Defense of the Princess. I think I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. A couple things. I thought this overall had a really good message and was very well intentioned. It made some great points. There were many quotes that I kind of wanted to highlight, but I didn't. So it might be worth a reread in the future. However, it was a little repetitive at times, which is fine and also kind of common in nonfiction in my experience. But I also think this is just the beginning of a conversation, because she touched on it here and there about little boys acting as princesses and stuff. But I feel like in her big rallying cry near the end, she was mistakenly saying gender when she meant sex. Because she was like, women have ovaries and this and that. And I was like, some women don't. This was written a few years ago, 2016, but this needs to be a jumping off point for the conversation, not the whole conversation. Because I think we do need to be listening to her points about embracing traditionally feminine traits and realizing that feminism is not just wanting to be treated like a man in a man's world, but the world evolving to include everyone. But there were parts missing to this conversation, and by the end that made me really uncomfortable. I have a lot of thoughts about this, many of which I can't untangle, but overall I thought it was an interesting read. She did a lot of good research. She made a lot of good points. Personally, I wish she would have discussed gender correctly, and I wish she would have discussed the differences in gender more. But at the end of the day, the message was people look down on princesses because they're girly, but there is power in being a girl. Princesses know their power, and the point of being a princess is not about looks, it is about character. And I appreciated that. So my first read, 4 out of 5 stars. I just want to take a moment to readdress something that I was saying in this. I don't think I said it well in the slightest bit. So I think it is frankly unforgivable, you know, in many ways, that she treated gender and sex as the same thing when they are not. Additionally, I feel like it could be very harmful to some people to read this and have it contribute to their ideas about gender. And unfortunately, she was leading up to a really, really strong argument, and in the last, like, maybe 50 pages or so, she started saying those things. So I wanted to give her credit for the really good research and points that she had in the beginning, but I do want to emphasize that in the moment where it mattered most, what she said was largely wrong. I think that's understandable, not excusing her. It's still wrong, but it's understandable that she thought this way because she is a privileged woman. We have to acknowledge that. And so she was writing this piece with the experiences of oppression that she has felt, which are significantly lacking in comparison to other female voices. And so I think if the idea of embracing femininity is something that really matters to you, then this would be a worthwhile read and has good points. However, if you are looking more for discussion that includes diverse women and amplifying less privileged voices, I would avoid this read. Not because it's a bad one per se, but because there are more and better voices to be listening to about overall female oppression and issues. This was only tackling the idea that because princesses are quote unquote girly, they seem weak, and that little girls shouldn't grow up looking up to princesses. That was all this was doing, but she reached for like more than that, and she fell really short. So I just wanted to say that, because like trans women are valid, women who have medical issues that make it so that they have to have their ovaries removed or whatever, they're still valid. All women are still valid. If you identify as a woman, you are valid. And this book didn't hit that mark. It hit some other marks, but it lacked there, and I did not appreciate that. I don't know how else to say that, so I tried. I just realized as I was importing the footage if I talk about this, that this picture of Cinderella was like right behind me in the shot. That's funny. Okay, I just finished Hugo and Rose, and I think it's between a 3.5 and a 4 stars. I'm looking at Harris, by the way.
And I'm here. Hi.
Okay, that's
so
enough of you.
Okay.
Except I will ask you, what genre does this look like?
Romance.
That's what I thought too. I was wrong.
Wow. It's called Hugo and Rose.
Yes. So it is actually kind of, it had the same feel to it as Reverie by Ryan Lasala, which is interesting. Definitely not really a romance. I mean, in a sense, she's learning to love her life, but this is really about a woman named Rose and a man named Hugo who have dreamt of one another on a weird island since they were 6 years old, 6 and 8 respectively, and then they find each other in real life on accident, and the story progresses from there, and it is an insane and nightmarish read, if I'm going to be honest. I like the concept. It was very creative. I didn't love the action sequences, but I almost never do. It was a weird one and a definitely misleading cover. And even, it doesn't seem as intense in, like, the description on the flap. It makes it seem like a romance there, and it's not. So...
Can I pose a question?
Sure.
I have a question for all of you. Martine keeps calling me this word, but I don't know what it means. Does anyone know what camera hog means?
Stop it.
I
Anyway, so, Harris, would you like the responsibility of picking my next book for this challenge?
What's the challenge?
I'm reading Dollar Tree books.
Oh, okay.
You have 3 choices.
These came out of the vlog today, didn't they?
No, they did not.
No, not these ones.
Okay, tell the people your pick.
Next up is Vatican Waltz from Martine. Pretty interesting premise, but the cover sucks.
Yeah, it does.
And then I almost chose that one. That's coming soon.
He thinks that
and
one
I
is
didn't care about
interesting.
that. Martine has read this book 5 times.
That's not
Not
true.
this specific book, but like this kind of book.
This is under 300 pages, so should be a quick read too. This is my next read. Yay. I just finished Vatican Waltz and I think I'm giving it 5 stars. So first things first, I read this in like 2 days. Yes, it's short, but like also today I couldn't put it down even though I felt like not much was happening. It was still one of those books that I couldn't put down. I don't know how this author made a character like the main character of this book so interesting. Like, she didn't do much, right? But she was fascinating. And it was a very relaxing read for some reason, but also, like, stressing and frustrating. A basic premise is that there's this girl and she has this really rich prayer life and she feels like she's being called to be a priest in the Catholic Church, which I don't know the state of the Catholic Church now, but at least in this book, there are no female priests. So she's going through that journey. The ending was wild, and I was reading some reviews after, and someone was like, if you go back and look, like, the ending makes total sense, and I'm just like, do I have to reread this now with the ending in mind? It's one of those books. I love the depiction of religion and prayer life in this, and the discussions about the church. Yeah, I don't know. For a Dollar Tree book, this was, like, real deep and made me feel things. I cared about the main character a lot. Couldn't tell you why, but I did. I think I'm giving it 5 stars. All right, I just finished my second to last read for this Dollar Tree challenge, Three Brothers by Peter Ackroyd, and I gave it 3 stars. It was good, but it wasn't anything special, and it was kind of slow. It took me like a while to get through it and kind of a slog to get through, but like paid off in the end. This is very, not that I've read much Charles Dickens, but it's even described so on the back, very Dickensian in the way that it portrays London as a character in the book, I would say. And there was this really great line that I think was even about Charles Dickens, about London. It was perfectly obvious that in most of Dickens' novels, the city itself becomes a form of penitentiary in which all of the characters are effectively manacled to the wall. If it is not a cell, it is a labyrinth in which few people find their way. They are lost souls. But what then, the young man in spectacles asked him, do we make of the continuing use of coincidence? That is the condition of living in the city, is it not? The most heterogeneous elements collide because you see everything is connected to everything else. And that's pretty much what this whole book is about. But it's about these 3 brothers and how everything is related to everything else. So it was like interesting, but not my favorite. On to the last one. I'm halfway through Minders. Just remembered as I was filming a clip for a different video talking about this that I picked this up at the Dollar Tree for a very specific reason, and that was because there was mind reading involved and I was writing mind reading at the time and I wanted other perspectives. And I really love how this author portrays reading minds in the specific way that she does. Instead of it being a supernatural power, she makes it more of a technologically based thing, which reminds me of Stitchers, except that the person whose mind she's reading isn't dead. If you've ever watched Stitchers, I believe it was on Freeform for a couple of years, comment down below, because for a while there I was obsessed with it. Then the show kind of devolved. I don't know if I finished watching it, but it was still really good in my opinion. So this kind of reminds me of that. Halfway through my last book for this challenge, and so far, so good. Oh, that lighting's weird. The absolute audacity to write a book where the first half is a solid 4-star, interesting, intriguing, and the second half makes it a 2-star book. Okay. So this was a bad ending book for this challenge. Funny because I think it's one from the biggest publisher, but I'll do a wrap up later where I look at like the publishers, the original prices and stuff. I enjoyed how they portrayed mind reading in this book, and so that's what made the first half really good and compelling. I never liked the main character, to be honest, and I never liked her feelings towards the male protagonist. It was all quite weird, but it only got weirder and weirder and weirder, but in ways that don't make sense. I know that it's probably not supposed to make total sense because this is clearly not in our modern world. Like, the street names are absolutely wild. This was a hot mess at the end, is all it really was. I feel like I shouldn't spoil it, but at the same time, the end was just so confusing. I kept reading something and then being like, what? And turning back and then reading it again and being like, what? So this was a bust. But I read it. 2 stars. Yikes. Like, it kept dropping in my mind. For the longest time, it was like 4 stars. Is a 4-star read, 4 stars. then it was like 3.5, and then I was like 3, and then for like the last 50 pages or so I was sitting at 2.5, and then one more thing happened and I was like 2 stars. I can't do this anymore. The last 30 pages were straight up painful to read, in my opinion. Not from a like prose standpoint, like this is good writing, it's fine writing, but the plotting was just, it was too much for me. Maybe someone else would be like, wow, that was a crazy twist, I love that, but I was like, why are you doing this? It makes no sense. So, yep. Okay, I'm ready to give you my concluding thoughts. We're gonna go from first to last. First, I read In Defense of the Princess by Jeremy Fine. I gave this, I'm clicking on it to make sure I give you the correct and total rating, 4 stars. The press is Running Press, is a member of the Perseus Books Group and is not one of the big 5 publishers. So there's that. And then in the US, this would originally be $15. Second, I read Hugo and Rose by Bridget Foley, which I gave 4 stars. It's St. Martin's Press. It's one of the largest English language publishers. It's just not one of the big 5, but it is a pretty big one. And originally this was $26 and I read it for 1. Then I read Vatican Waltz by Roland Marullo. So sorry. And I believe I gave this 5 stars. Yeah, I gave this 5 stars, which I think out of all these it has like one of the lower overall ratings on Goodreads. Like other people did not agree with me. It is a slower piece, but that doesn't bother me. So yeah, I don't know. And this was Crown Publishers, which is a division of Random House. Technically is part of one of the big 5 publishers, just a branch off it. This was originally $24. Then I read Three Brothers by Peter Ackroyd, and I gave this 3 stars. Yeah, Nan A. Tali's Doubleday, a division of Random House, another division of Random House, so also from one of the big 5 publishers, and originally $27. This book was not worth $27. Sorry to tell you. And then lastly, I read Minders by Michelle Jaff. I gave this 2 stars. It's from Razorbill, which is the YA imprint of Penguin, so another big 5 publisher, and originally it was $18. So now I'm going to look up Running Press, because now I'm curious. So Running Press seems to be like the smallest press that all of these books are from, but yeah. And let's calculate how much money I saved in reading these books. So in total, these books, if I can get them in the right order, were originally worth $110. So I saved $105 during this reading challenge in reading these books. Yeah, we had a pretty even spread. 1 2-star, 1 3-star, 2 4-stars, and 1 5-star. So pretty solid. But anyway, this is going to conclude this video, and I'm so sorry for this light right here. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below which of these sounds most intriguing to you, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!